Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all our latest video content. If you're watching on LocalGov TV, be sure to visit their website to see all of the content made for you by your local governments. Alamance County is pleased to present the Alamance County Commissioners Meeting.
Thank you, sir. Oh, you're kidding. Henry speaking?
When
Guys, we're going to ask you to pull 5D. I'm going to ask you to pull 5D. Call the meeting to order. Yeah, Mr. Turner, I think you have the honors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the opportunity to live in a country where we can come together and discuss the issues of the day as a community. We pray for wisdom. We pray for your guidance. We pray that we're reminded of Dr. King's words in 63, that we will judge ourselves by the content of our character. Amen. Please join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to President's Day.
Shouldn't he be in this room?
500 in our favor, 500 million in our favor dollars.
As we enter the approval of the agenda, I'm making a motion that we move item 5D from the agenda.
What is D?
Second it.
D as in dog.
Okay.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. 5D, by the way, is
It's on page 3.
correct. It's the approval to accept a late tax exemption application, and we're have a second to remove that from the docket, from the consent. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. I'm gonna call on you last. You're always at the podium. So yeah, we do. Okay, with the removal of item 5D, do we have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous again. Okay, public comments. Carol Davis.
Good evening. My name is Carol Davis. I am one of the owners of the farm just north of the proposed LCID landfill on Euless Road. On our farm, we grow food crops with a neighborhood farmer. We manage our forests and timberland and fields to provide habitat for birds, wildlife, and pollinators. And I have three main concerns about this proposed landfill. First of all, we lease our hunting rights on our property to a hunt club led by the North Carolina Wildlife Commissioner's retired Assistant Chief Todd Kennedy, who some of you know. Roughly about half of the forest where the hunters hunt is on the property line next to the landfill. And the noise and activity from the landfill could affect the hunters' ability to hunt that ground successfully, which could lead to less lease income for my family. Second, there already is an LCID landfill 2 miles away up Kimesville Road from the site of this proposed landfill, and it was recently approved to expand its capacity. In addition, the industrial construction and demolition landfill on Foster Store Road was recently applied to increase its intake. Now, I realize they don't take landfill stuff, but they could in an incident. So, does Coble Township really need 3 landfills in a 4-mile radius, which is what we'll have once this landfill is approved? Finally, at the October Planning Board, which is the first time I spoke here, I'm still a little nervous, where the landfill was discussed, the other item on the agenda was a proposed solar farm for eastern Alamance County. There was a long discussion about a bond that the solar company would be required to post in case they were unable to restore the land at the end of the effective life of the solar farm. And this bond protects the landowner leasing his property to the company, but its unintended consequences, it also protects his neighbors from having an eyesore that in case the solar company goes out of business and can't clean up that property. So it protects their property values too. There was no discussion of a similar bond for the landfill, or really any discussion of who would restore the land after the landfill closes if the owner is unable to do so. The situations are different, and I know that. Solar farms and landfills are governed by different regulations, but both are businesses that affect the value of the property that they sit on and have the potential to affect the properties around them. So it seems the neighbors of the proposed landfill don't enjoy equal protection to those given by this county to the neighbors of the solar farm. If the landfill operator can't monitor and maintain the landfill for the required 10 years after it closes, the value of my property is diminished potentially permanently. So, for the 3 reasons I mentioned, the impact of noise and activity on the hunting club and homeowners nearby, the fact that Coble Township already has available landfill capacity, and the lack of clarity on who'll pay for maintaining, I urge you to deny this request.
Thank you. I think she had that time. What do you think, guys?
I worked on it.
Okay. Terry Waddell.
How you doing? And I appreciate you
Good
letting us
afternoon.
speak. I just want to voice my concern and alarm about the revaluation that I received and everybody else received in Alamance County. And I'm only going to speak of my particular subdivision, which I live in the Alamance County side of Gibsonville. And the subdivision I live in is called Kingston Place. And the average increase of value in that neighborhood was 71.49%, in which I understand that's not too bad considering other places it might be in the 80%, like Graham and Mebane and things like that, but still 71% is high, and the average increase in value was over $170,000 per, on the average for the whole subdivision. And from a relative percentage standpoint, from 2017, which was around 3% increase, till now to 71%, it's over 2,134% increase from the percentages. It's a lot. And even though I've been told that you want to go with a tax neutral rate, and that some of the numbers that's been thrown to me, which I appreciate, from 65 cents per $100 value down to around 45 cents per $100 value, my calculation says it must go even further, down to about 35 cents. If you consider the average, the county average is 79% increase. The county average. So, and also too, it might want to consider not using this evaluation because it was done, from what I understand from Alamance News in October of 2022 from an article, it was done 2 years early. And that was at the height of the COVID bubble. Now, the real estate's coming down. Now, it might not come down like it was before, but it's coming down. And I really urge to come up with another scenario because 71 or 79% value increase, that's hard to take. But at the same time, as I asked you to, consider changing it or throwing it out and starting over at the time that which it was originally done. It was supposed to be done. I think it was supposed to be done in 2025, I believe. But that's what I asked you to do. And I certainly appreciate you allowing me to express my concern. And I know it's hard. I really know it's hard. But also with people on fixed incomes and things like that and people that rent, it's going to affect everybody, especially property insurance too. So, thank you.
And we thank you. Mr. Vines?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Henry Vines, 3450 Eisner Drive. John, we'll have a chance to do on the public hearing on landfill. Is that correct?
That's
Speak-
correct.
Yes, I don't need to do that now. I want to just reiterate what this gentleman just said. I've done some studying since I was here last time, and at the 43.5% reduction, 75% of all the residents in Alamance County are going to see an increase in their property tax bill. It's inevitable. And like I said, that's what the proposed rate's being is 43.5 cents. And I'm basing this on my own property. I've had 2 properties that's going to go up, and I got 1 property that's going to go down. And I learned from Jeremy that the percentage of where your taxes are going to go up and not is at 52%, not the 70%. So anything that's over 52%, you're going to see an increase in your property taxes. And as I've heard each of you say that, you don't want to put any undue burden of property taxes on the taxpayers, especially with the economy and inflation and everything that's going in place. And that leads me into my second thing. I looked on the agenda and I seen where the proposal tonight is about this going to build this $60+ million courthouse. In all 3 scenarios that were presented in the agenda are a tax increase, anywhere from a penny up to 2 cents. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't want to cause undue burden, why are we looking at building something that's going to increase taxes? If you want to do this, we need to work inside the box. I know Mr. Lashley has several ideas that will work, and I also know that he has several ideas that we can meet the needs of the court system without even building the new courthouse. But 65 million plus, looks like to me we need to go somewhere and build a new one instead of working down here on this corner. I think our school was what, Ms. Thompson, 65, 68 million? Look how big that complex is. And we gonna do this little box down here on the corner for $65 million? And gonna put the taxpayers in 30-year debt? My grandchildren and their children are gonna have to be paying for it. I hope that y'all will table this. I don't know why we need to do this right now, especially with everything that's going on, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Henry.
These are the public speakers that had signed up. We next have our consent agenda. And remember that we have removed 5D from the consent agenda. Do we have a motion as to the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Did we not already, I thought we already approved it.
We did, no, we approved the agenda.
I see.
I'm sorry, this is the consent agenda. Okay, we have a motion now. We have a second as to the consent agenda?
You need a second?
Yes.
Sure. I'll second.
All right. Have motion and second, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, I think there are no nays, correct? Good, it's unanimous. I like that. I put together my consent agenda with a separate clip all in one shot. Thank you. We are now moving to item 6A. If you're looking at your packet, it's page 46 on the agenda. And that is the application for the Alamance LCID inert debris landfill.
Public hearing.
That's correct. We have a motion, then I'll move that we go into the public hearing as to that matter.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, we are now in the LCID landfill public discussion. Anybody on this side as to that matter? Anybody on this side as to that matter? Yes, sir. Mr. Wilson, you'll be next. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'd just like to stand up tonight and just say that, you know, this is my neighborhood. This is where I first moved in here, was on Euless Road, right up the road from Gordon. Gordon was one of the first people to come up to me and welcome me to the community. He was a great help to me all through my years, starting out farming, and this is a good family. I have no doubt that Gordon and his family will run this operation in the way it needs to be run. And the thing that I have said before, Mr. Pike has went through all the hoops and everything of this hideout. They were going in guidelines and doing everything that needs to be done. That's one thing, you know, on the Coble deal, that I think it ought to be the same way. If you're going to have to meet it, you ought to have to meet the rules, as be fair to everybody. But I don't have a problem with him doing this landfill, and I think, like I said, I know that they'll operate this in the utmost way. And the other thing, if it's not known, Gordon can see this from his house. It's just over the hill. So I don't think he's going to do anything that's going to put his own family at risk, and his grandchildren. All of them live right across the road over there. So I would encourage you to move forward and let this go on through. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson,
Let me come up there, thank you.
right here.
I'll plug it later.
Yes, sir. I have to disclose to everybody, Mike and I graduated from Elon together. So, and whether that's a plus or minus for Mike, I'm not sure.
Jury's still out on that one. No, I'm Mike Wilson. I live in the southern part of Alamance County. And like Mr. Vines, I've known Gordon for a long time. He's a reputable person, a good family man, and I reiterate all the things he said, that he's a family man and he would not put something there that would be a detriment to his family. Secondly, I think we need to stop and realize, the lady before said that there were 4 other landfills. This is an inert landfill. It's not just a run-of-the-mill landfill. Wood stumps, concrete rock, you know, natural things are the only thing that's going in it. Secondly, with all the development and everything that's going on around the Liberty area and Snow Camp area, there's going to be a need for these landfills, because as development takes place from the Toyota plant, the other plants that's bringing in major industries down here, some of these farms are gonna be gobbled up, and there's not gonna be land for a landfill. And with all development, there's gonna definitely be a need for the landfills, for land clearing and those type things. So with that being said, I would hope that you would approve this and let him commence with this building this landfill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers regarding this matter in the public hearing?
He's checking back in the back.
Thank you. How many people are in the back?
6 or 7.
All right, thank you. If there are no other speakers, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. We are now out of the public hearing. Thompson, you're on the far left. You want to be the first
To,
speak as to this matter? Or do you want to speak?
I'm just curious, is this, I guess I need to ask one of you guys that I met outside. Not the big guy, because he said he was gonna intimidate me with his size. Let me go ahead and put that out, Sheriff, my witness. Is this similar to where the other landfill is that Meridian has come in? Is this like the same kind of business?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
Do you mind coming up here and just educating me on this? Are you guys okay with that? Am I allowed to do that? Okay.
Hello, I'm Gordon Pike, and my son Nathan. We are the ones that's gonna run the landfill. And no, this will only be stumps, brush, concrete, and rock. That's all it'll be, and dirt. I mean, say if the state's cleaning up along the side of the road, they can haul us dirt in for us to keep our landfill covered. But it will not be like Coble's. There will be no trash, no garbage, no nothing.
Let me ask you this, the Henshaw
Yeah,
is going out because
Right,
Mike passed
right,
away.
right.
And this is similar to the one he had,
It's,
is it
it's
not?
exactly like Mike's. Mike had a 2-acre. Ours will be a little larger because when I applied with the state, they said we no longer give out 2-acre sites. They said you'll get a larger site. So he came and looked at it, told me what I could get, and that's where we went. But the state has approved it. He said it's one of the nicest, best sites that I've looked at in 10 years. And he said that I see no problem. I mean, we've got a watershed on that property. We've got to be so many feet away from it. And we've jumped through all the hoops that the county has asked us to do. All we've got to do is build a settlement ponds, and the guy from the state said, I'll give you permit the day you get those settlement ponds. But we've got to do a lot of other stuff that the county is requiring us to do that Mike and some of these 2-acre sites didn't have to do. We've got to have a well, we've got to have a septic tank, we've got to have an office that's handicap accessible, and this is all coming from Alamance County making us do this, which the state is not requiring it, but the county is. So,
Thousands and thousands of trees.
yep, we've had to set out thousands of trees around the property to protect the site from the road, and we've got to put a 6-foot fence all the way around it. And I mean, we've spent a lot of money already, but there's a whole lot more money got to be spent before we can get up and running.
Well, do you just have land right now? You're not doing this?
No, we're not doing this now.
Okay, what made you want to do this?
Well, I've been in the grading business. I've been running heavy equipment for 53 years. I've been in the grading business for 44 years. And I'm getting older. My son's coming along. He's worked at the Alamance County landfill for 13 years. I mean, he knows all about landfills too. Matter of fact,
when Kent Coble opened his landfill, I loaded the first sand rock for over a week there when he got started. He didn't even have a piece of equipment. So, you know, it's something it's in my blood, and I love to do it, and there's a need for it. The county is gonna need this. I mean, it's, you know,
Just one more question. What about traffic? Because
well,
what does your outfit look like compared to this Meridian? Seems
oh,
like
no,
we're gonna take trash from Mars
won't.
and it.
Mine will be minor compared to those.
Are you around all housing developments?
No,
Are you in an open
no,
field?
I'm probably one of the, like, most isolated place in Alamance County, and that's one reason that I wanted to do it, because where we're at, there's no, you know, there's no other houses, or there's one house across the road, but nobody lives in it, and it's probably a mile to the Kinesville Road from my property, and it's you know, it's kind of isolated.
Okay, just one last question. How long does it take, if it's just constant, for this to get done? Like, for it to be full?
Full,
For people to come
Well,
and put their stuff? I mean, what kind of time are we thinking?
I would say it depends on the economy, you know, if housing keeps going, or if things slow down with interest rates going up, it could slow it down. But the guy from the state, he said, I see a 25-year project.
And you don't have to have liners
No,
or anything like that, because
No,
there's no chemicals that's coming
no,
in?
no.
I would say, when Henshaw was running his.
Right,
And he passed away this past summer.
right. I've been closing up Mike's landfill for his wife.
And, just pristine, it's, you know,
Right.
there's no contaminants going into that
No.
type landfill, so it's totally different than the Alamance County landfill.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And there are no liners required, anything of the sort.
Right, right,
And it could be just pristine in 25 years when you close it.
right.
So,
When you close something like that, do you know it was there? I mean, is this like gonna be buried, or is this like just mountains?
We've got to cover it over. It's gotta have so many feet of fill over it,
Okay,
and that stuff will decay. They, as companies now, hadn't heard tell of any of them in Alamance County, but I have in other states. They're going around and digging these landfills out and grinding them and making topsoil and selling it. And, so that's something, you know, that could be down the road. It would have to lay there several years to decay to the point where they could grind it up with a grinder, but that is happening in other states. I know Virginia's got some of them that's done that.
let me correct myself. Technically, you should have been speaking during the public hearing portion,
That's-
and I apologize to
That's
this
fine.
board for doing this out of order, but I think it's helping. So, Mr. Lashley, do you have?
I do have a couple of questions on Pam. She got 4 of them. So I only have one question for you. How many acres are you looking to currently, that the state approved you for?
Chad? So the property,
53.41.
no,
Thank you, Mr. Lashley. Chad Huffine, 505 East Davis Street, civil engineer, project engineer.
oh, you're one of those small.
No, ma'am, I'm just here trying to help you guys. It's 58 acres in total. The landfill area to the north of the property line and fence line, if you're looking at the exhibit on the big screen, is gonna be between 13 and 20 acres.
Any other questions, sir? Mr. Turner?
one question for staff. The planning board approved this request. Was there any opposition?
Nobody, the lady that spoke earlier.
Okay. On the planning board itself, Ms. Cotto, was there any opposition?
The planning board was really comfortable with this project. They didn't really have a whole lot of discussion because they kind of understood this pretty well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Carter?
I don't have any questions.
And I do not either.
Well, I appreciate it.
I'll
Thank
make
you.
the motion that we approve this item.
Second.
Motion second, any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Mr. Carter has made a really super suggestion.
Actually, Mr. Turner made that.
Mr. Turner, I'm sorry. And that is, Mr. Sheriff, we move you down the docket, so that we have, I see 9/10 of the judiciary sitting in the crowd, and, clerk of court, and, Sean Boone, the district attorney. I see Superior Court and District Court here. So I'm gonna suggest, and I think Mr. Turner has suggested, and I think Mr. Carter approves, that we move item 7C and 7D to the next two items. Ms. Manager, do you have an issue with that?
No, sir.
All right. And Mr. Johnson, the High Sheriff, Hoop is approving.
I don't have a problem.
We just need to make sure he gets all the time he needs.
I told Sheriff Johnson that he had 5 minutes or more, but.
You can hang out with it.
Okay.
We need to make a vote.
Thank you.
John, we need to vote on that. We haven't voted on it.
I thought we voted.
Haven't even actually had a motion, you just talked about it. Nobody's voted.
You told me at the inner.
Yes, making the change.
Oh, I don't think we need to make a motion. All right. Does everybody agree that we can move to 7C and 7D? Is there any opposition? We'll just do that. Thank you.
All
Okay.
right. Commissioners, do you prefer if I stand at the podium or sit here?
Whatever
Either
fits
is
you.
fine.
You have a
Whatever's good for
microphone,
you.
either way, I think that's your option.
Okey doke.
We ask all speakers, by the way, otherwise, to come to the mic, because people out in radio land or TV land or whatever, cannot pick up what you're saying if you're out in the audience. So we'd ask all other speakers that don't have mics to come to the podium to speak. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioners, this item came before you most recently at your retreat. And as you know, your financial model is a dynamic, ever-changing model. So you have asked me to bring it back again for some further conversation. So I'm going to go through a couple of options for the board to think about in terms of how the model needs to change in order to accommodate a project as large as the courthouse project, which is your next item for discussion. So I have put together just a summary. You have the full Davenport financial affordability model within your packet. So I'm just going to try to hit some of the highlights and give you the opportunity to ask some questions. So in relation to the courthouse project, which is really the impetus for what's bringing this before you tonight, we have 3 cases that we have analyzed for you. Case 1 is to fund your courthouse project with 100% of a debt financing. The number that's been used for discussion purposes tonight is $67 million for the courthouse project. Case 2 is a debt financing of $57 million and takes $10 million of your ARP funding. That's the revenue replacement funding. I just want to be clear that we've talked about this project not being eligible for ARP funding. The piece that is that revenue replacement funds. And then case 3, it presents an option for you that finances $47 million worth of project, takes your $10 million ARP, and then also makes an appropriation from your county capital reserves of $10 million.
And would you tell us how much is in capital reserve at this time?
Sure. Let me go to that. Sorry, I'm going to shift over to the actual plan document. And it looks like for fiscal year 23, we're talking about 17 million is your current capital reserve fund balance.
But
So
that's
you-
just for the county, that has
That
nothing
is
to do with-
just the county funding plan component of this model. Yes.
So that's not total capital reserves, that's the portion that you have that you can set aside for this project.
That is the total capital reserve for the county for fiscal year '23.
And repeat that number again?
17,015,612. That'll be at the close of this current fiscal year. That does not include a $5 million appropriation that we discussed at a previous meeting. And you'll recall that there are capital reserve funds both in the ABSS model as well as the ACC model. Those would be different amounts than what I'm giving you here for county. Oh, okay. It has the 5 million?
So is that 17
Okay,
plus
it does have the
5,
5
or-
million in this number that I
It
gave
does
you.
not.
It does,
It does, okay.
yes.
I sort of thought so when it.
So it'd be 12 million.
All right, so
okay.
we're looking at 12 million outside, but there's 5 that's possible.
Correct. If we were to follow the policy that the board had adopted previously.
Does the county also have a certain percentage they always like to keep in their reserves? I know we did at the school system.
Is there?
Did you ever want to go
policy for
below that
reserves?
percentage?
So for the reserve, for the capital reserves, there is no policy.
Okay.
The policy that we have is for the general fund, fund balance, and that is right now 20%.
Okay.
And that will not be impacted by this number.
That would not. That would not.
That's correct.
We're at about, what, 22% now?
That's right.
22.7.
That's it.
I knew you would know.
All right.
Point.
So under each of the 3 cases that we just outlined, the debt financing, the debt with ARP, and then the third one was the debt ARP and the capital reserve. There are 3 scenarios for which you could choose to fund any one of these cases. The 3 scenarios include scenario A, we're calling, which would require a tax increase. So a project this large, there just simply isn't enough pay-as-you-go funding to support a project this large. So scenario A is implement a tax increase when needed. And that when needed is spelled out in the plan exactly when you would need a tax increase to support that. Scenario B is an upfront tax increase that would begin as early as fiscal year '24. The theory behind that is it lessens the impact, extends it out over time, but you would be implementing that sooner than when the project actually came online. And then scenario C, we're calling a reapportionment of revenue from the ABSS model to the county model, and that would begin as early as fiscal year '24. And I'll go a little bit further into an explanation of what that means and what that looks like. We've also used the term right-sizing the ABSS model, and the reasons that we would want to consider doing that is that when the model was initially developed, 1 penny at the time was about 1.3 million. You know today 1 penny is about 1.6, and we know with the reval that the value of the penny is going to grow even more. So you'd want to right-size that penny to reflect your current reality. Another option is that we have used very conservative estimates, so we might want to go back and adjust for actual growth of revenues, whether that be your sales tax or your property tax, making sure that you have a model that is accurately reflecting what that is truly looking like. So you're truing up the revenues as well as the project needs.
And that would be option C.
That would be option C, and I also just want to be clear that that would be a fixed annual appropriation from, or to the county model. So this would not be like a one-time appropriation, this would be an ongoing fixed appropriation. And the model would be changing from what it was initially designed.
So does that mean you're taking money from the school system?
It would mean that we'd be taking money from the current model, so where this would show would be in their capital reserve line, and we would be moving that to the county model.
So as much work is still remaining on school buildings in
Sure.
this county, somebody older than I am, which is
Sure.
older than dirt.
Sure.
Okay. That's all I needed.
Well, when we look at the capital reserve column, you can see that the way that it's currently designed, which is allocating about 5.64 cents into that model, that number grows exponentially to a place that is probably more than we would want held in a capital reserve fund. It's, when you go down the line, you know, we're talking about going up to around $195 million for them. So the right sizing is what we're talking about, is the making sure that we're able to cover all of the needs within this model.
I just know how hard, I was on the board at that time, we worked to get something that we could really count on, so we could plan.
Sure.
Big different projects, because, on any good day, something big breaks.
Right.
Thank you.
And so even with the right sizing, we'll go through a little bit further. The capital reserve fund for the school never gets lower than, I think, about $3 million.
But I understand, because of the tax revaluation and what's coming up between now and budget, that really is not taking money away from the school system. It's just making it where it is currently, or close to.
You would be adjusting for all those things we talked about, the value of the penny, the needs of each of the three models, and ways to support that without hitting your tax rate to do so.
Thank you.
All right, so on our case one, which we talked about being 100% debt financing, no appropriation from capital, no ARP designation, you have your three scenarios. The scenario A, which was implementing the tax increase when it was needed for the project, you would see in fiscal year 28, an increase would be needed of about 1.64 cents. Fiscal year 29, an increase of about 1.34 cents, for a total increase of about 2.97 cents. We have put the amounts in there because we don't want to get too hung up on the actual cents, because the value of that penny is changing so significantly. So the actual amount that you would acquire or need in scenario A is about $5 million. So scenario B, which was doing an upfront tax increase as soon as fiscal year 24, that would require a 1.72 cents with your current value of a penny to net you about $2.78 million. And then scenario C, which is the reapportionment of the models from ABSS to the county, you'd be looking at an appropriation of $2.985 million. And the lowest of that the reserve would get in this model with all debt financing, so kind of your worst case scenario, would be $2.137 million for that capital reserve that I talked about. And so when you look at the spreadsheet, that's a piece of the model. It's that very far column on the right, and you can see that it gets that to that level over the next few years, and then it'll bounce back up. Okay, so the ABSS funding plan model that we're showing up here now is your scenarios A and B. So that is not touching what's currently designated in the model, which is the 5.64 cents. That was allocated in fiscal year 20 to pay the debt service on the bond-related debt. So if you leave that as it currently stands, it would preserve that. Your capital reserve and the fund balance would stay very strong. And the sales tax is projected just held at fiscal year 20 level. So you can see in that model, which doesn't touch that at all, the size of the capital reserves. So currently you're looking at about 12.7 for fiscal year 22. In fiscal year 23, we're about 4.7 million. And over the next few years, that will just continue to grow. All right, this is that scenario C where you're changing the appropriation. This is the impact on the ABSS model. It shows a fixed annual increase from the ABSS model that would go over to the county model of 2.985 million. The impact then, I've circled that on your slides where you can see the impact on the capital reserve fund It's still healthy. It's dipping as low as 2.1 and then will continue to rebound after that. And continues to grow all the way down to 126 million.
For those that cannot read it, the 126,728,684,000 is 2046.
Right, this model
I know that's
extends
hard
out
to
many,
read.
many years. No, I'm sorry about that. All right, so case 2 is looking at a debt financing plus a 10 million revenue replacement from your ARP. So scenario A, implementing your tax increase when it would be needed would be in fiscal year 29 of 2.19 cents, fiscal year 2030 of 0.12 cents, for a total increase of 2.31 cents in scenario A. And that nets you just shy of $4 million. Scenario B then is looking at an upfront tax increase starting in fiscal year 24. It would require 1.28 cents to net you just over $2 million. And then scenario C is the reapportionment of revenue from the ABSS model to the county model beginning in fiscal year 24. The appropriation would be 2.235, and your reserves would stay above $3 million. And that's the one that just has the ARP portion in it. I don't think I need to go through the spreadsheets that are in the packet, but happy to do so if you need for me to.
Mr. Turner,
Yes, sir.
any questions
Uh,
or statements?
Are you done, Miss?
Do you want me to go through the third case, which is the combination?
Definitely
Okay.
want you to go through that.
Okay, so I'm not quite done. Your third case then is the debt financing at 47 million, your 10 million revenue replacement of ARP funds, and is using a capital reserve appropriation of $10 million. So in that case 3, your scenario 1 to implement the tax when it's needed would require a total increase of 1.99 cents to net you 3.3 million. Scenario B, which is your upfront tax increase beginning next year, would require a 1.26 cent increase to net you $2 million. And then scenario C, the combination of changing the model, the ABSS model to the county model, would require a $2.16 million appropriation, and the reserves would dip the lowest for ABSS in fiscal year 24, where their reserve level would remain at $3 million. Those are the 3 cases and models that we looked at, given you your various options for taking on a project somewhere in the size of that courthouse project. We are here to answer questions. I have Ted Cole from Davenport present, who is available to answer questions, as well as myself and our finance director. Just trying to give you some options to consider how you might fund a project as significant and as impactful to your finances as a courthouse project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few questions. First, on the size of the expense. I understand there are essentially 3 options. One is a $65 million option. One is a $66 million option, which is the $65 million option plus $1 million to, I guess, harden the structure to allow a 4th floor at some point. Is that right?
Yes.
And then the third option would be a $75 million option, which would include a 4th floor shell, but not finish the 4th floor.
That's correct.
Okay. And then if we, for the conversation we're having tonight, the $67 million total price tag would include either a $65 million price tag plus $2 million in contingency, or a $66 million price tag plus $1 million in contingency. So for the purposes of our conversation, we're not talking about a fourth floor shell. We're talking about a 3-story building, maybe with the option of engineering to allow a fourth floor in the future. Is that fair?
That is correct.
Okay. So for $67 million, I want to start with I want to go back in time. So when the tax increase was put into effect in what, 17? 18? It was an 8-cent tax increase. 5.64 cents went to ABSS for their capital reserves, and that amount has remained unchanged throughout this time.
That's correct.
1.4 cents to ACC, again, has remained unchanged, and then 0.96 to the county for what was called the penny plan, which is for a number of things. Is that right? And those numbers have not changed.
That is correct.
But what has changed is the value of a penny. So in 2018, the value of a penny, like you said, was about 1.3 million. Now it's valued at 1.6 million. So additional $300,000 on 5.64 cents is about $1.7 million, which is going into ABSS's plan in above what it was planned to do. What it was planned to do, am I right, that it was planned to do the debt service on the $150 million ABSS project. So anything it's doing above that is above what it was planned to do. But because the value of a penny is increasing, more money's going to it. Also, sales tax continues to increase. That goes to ABSS's plan as well.
Yes.
And also in the plan, it was assumed that we would pay 5% on the interest that was submitted with that was
That's right.
accrued on the bonds, and we're at what, 2%? A little over 2, which all those things allows that pot to continue to grow above what it was designed to do. I think I can make a case that we before we talk about additional revenue, I think we can look at the revenue that we're getting to make a determination about what we can do. But I don't want to decide that tonight without having some of these conversations go through the TRC process, and I would recommend the TRC process, the oversight committee process, so that everybody knows, ACC, ABS, and the county, what it is how this might affect their worlds. But if I could just talk some actual dollars, if we made no changes now to ABSS's 5.64 cent allocation, what, based on the Davenport plan, say 10 years out, what are they projected to have in that capital reserve? Do we have that number?
I have that. So if I look at 2033, they would be projected to have $62,519,387 in their capital reserve fund balance with no change.
So that assumes we don't buy anything else, we don't do any additional debt service for ABSS, 62 million in 10 years?
Yes.
If you went with case 3 scenario C, which is a $20 million down payment from the county, 10 from ARPA, 10 from our existing county reserves, which exist already, from the capital reserves, and you assume a reapportionment of 2.16 million every year from ABSS's model, you would just subtract 2.1 times 10, right, to determine what decrease you would have to ABSS's 62 million. So is it right that you'd subtract about 21 million? Because I'm taking out 2.1 each year if we do that.
It seems right. We actually have run that scenario, so let me see if I can get you an actual number. It would be case 3, scenario C, right?
Right.
Okay. So their capital reserve with that 2.16 million allocation over to the county model would put their capital reserve fund balance for, would you like it to see it in fiscal year 24?
Let's just say the same 10-year period.
The same 10-year? 2033?
Yes.
Would put it at 592,332. Is that right?
No, that's the county.
That shouldn't be right.
Turn right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine. So
The
this is
tan one?
assuming the debt is paid.
Oh,
So 23.
okay. I don't have that one. You go ahead.
Yep. Oh, that's
I'm
fine.
looking at the wrong page, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. So in the presentation that we gave to the board, if you look out to fiscal year 2020, three, go ahead, Heidi.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was looking at the county model. That was the number for what the county's reserve would look like. So 2033 then would have that at 27,795,549.
Okay.
Sorry,
And if
didn't mean
we
to
chose
confuse
to
that.
put additional county capital reserves into the county's model, that the number would, the ABSS capital reserves would be higher than that number.
Did you say if we were gonna put more money into the
If-
county's capital reserve?
Right. If
That
we
would
put-
not necessarily change theirs unless you wanted to reduce the appropriation.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, you could do that.
So, I mean, look, I think we probably, again, ought to put this through TRC and operational review, but I
Yes.
think this exercise shows that there's, the ABSS will still be held. I have been a very strong supporter of capital spending for ABSS, and I don't want them to get into a hole. I don't think they will. I think there's plenty of money here. I also have a question, you know, there's been some discussion in the past about the $19 million bond premium potential that this board is elected not to do at this point. If we went with case 3, scenario C, is there still an opportunity to finance that debt if we should choose to?
Yes.
That's all I think.
Mr. Carter.
Oh, I've been in this discussion so many times this last week, I don't think I have any more questions.
Mr. Lashley.
Well, I guess the only question, I like what Commissioner Turner is doing. I think that's a good way to look at it. If your tax base is increased, then you should probably the taxpayer should get some benefit from that. Excuse me. I guess the only question I really have is, we just got finished talking about the capital reserve fund, $12 million. And we know there's $5 million lingering around that possibly could be used. If you do not use the $5 million for this, where would that money go? Would it go into unrestricted? Would it go into our savings account, or would it just go into a place where we would use it to maybe plug some holes with our upcoming budget?
So if we're not transferring that $5 million to the capital reserve plan, then that's exactly right. It would stay in our general fund. It's unassigned fund balance, so the board could appropriate that for a future purpose. It could be used to balance the budget.
Okay. Let me go to give me 1 second. Okay, I guess I just want to clarify something, some questions that I got about this scenarios.
Okay.
I guess what I was trying to clear up for something for some people who watch on TV. What you've proposed is you gave us 3 cases. We choose one, the case that we like, along with the scenario. Is that correct? We're not looking at all 3 scenarios, we're just looking at one. Take the first case, I have to choose one of those 3, okay? I hope Barbara heard that, because she asked me that question, and I thought that was I thought that's what you were asking me to do.
So I don't need a decision tonight.
Right.
I'm just simply running scenarios for you to see the capacity within the model.
Absolutely, and I'm like, I think what Mr. Turner said is proper in the sense that, you know, it's a great idea, actually. Sit down with the powers that be, just to run these numbers through ABSS and show them. I can show you if you wish, how much money they're gonna have at the end of this time.
Yes. So we have a TRC meeting tomorrow, we have an OSC meeting on Thursday, and we will walk through
And we'll
these
get some
various
feedback
scenarios.
from those.
Yes, we will. And then as you're moving into the budget process and we have a better idea of what 1 penny will be netting you, we will again revise the model and we'll continue to hone it and fine tune it. We're just letting you see what are some options for taking on a project of this magnitude.
Well, I'm also
Let
glad
me
that you.
explain the
Go ahead.
audience. TRC.
Thank you.
That's the technical directors and so forth, and the oversight that I will be in charge of on Thursday is basically the ACC, ABSS, and the county.
Right.
So we will meet on Thursday and have more input, but I didn't want you guys to get caught
Yes.
up in the letters and numbers and
Thank
not
you.
know
I
what we were talking about. Sorry.
Apologize for the acronym.
That's all good.
Yes.
It's all good. I'm glad you made a comment that you did, that the numbers that you're looking at, you should probably, people watching Radio Land and TV Land should probably not pay attention to the cents part.
Yes.
And I'm glad you made that comment, because those numbers will change. I guess as a
Yeah.
board, we need to keep an eye on the physical number,
Right.
and then we will be able to.
Right.
take
This
care
is
of it.
more of a concept
Sure.
and
And
less.
you have
of
no
a-
way to do it other than what
Right.
you're looking at
This
now,
is a
so-
snapshot of right now.
Well, thank you for your hard work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. Thompson?
You talk about sales tax, and I can remember for the last couple of years during COVID, Amazon just had it made because everybody was ordering online. You still had to have people to drive to Amazon to come to your house, truck, Prime, all this stuff. You know, it was okay for them to be out while we were all locked up. I seen on the news this morning that Americans are drowning in credit card debt. From October to December in 2022, there was $61 billion in charges. And for the year, it was $986 billion. Sooner or later, you're gonna get the word denied to pop up. Because, you know, we just can't keep spending that on our credit cards when we reach a limit. And you ever heard that? And I know I'm just probably tick some people off, but I'm just gonna be honest, that burning a hole in your pocket. I feel like that's what we're doing here. We just laid all this reval on people, created all this shock and awe to go out in our community. I know I've gotten phone calls. Had a guy said, my $85,000 trailer on a little piece of grass is now almost $250,000. Those are good odds. They should go to Vegas, because that thing didn't do anything different to get that more valuable. It's just something that we did. I didn't support it. I know it's mandated. I know we have to do these things, but I knew what was going to happen because no matter what we talk about building or not building or robbing Peter to pay Paul with the county, with the school, Joe taxpayer is going to pay for all of this. And I just can't see it. I just can't. I'm not going to dare touch something to take from the school, because if they got $100 and some million by 2046, they still ain't going to get all their stuff fixed, because 36, 7, 8 sites. So it's not like coming in your living room, walking on your carpet. It's thousands of feet going in and out, and things are breaking. And we're short with teachers. That's a thing with everywhere. Everywhere I go, even Blue Ribbon is hiring. I've never seen Blue Ribbon hiring. There's a lot of people hiring, and nobody's going to work. And I don't know what they're doing, but I want their secret. And I'm just saying, I just think right now, with everything that's the pressure on every county citizen, with these taxes, that's a tough word. I look at the news every night, and I'm watching Ohio and what's happening to them. And my president took $500 billion with him to Ukraine today. I don't know how you do that, but I'm all about America and taking care of Americans. And I'll probably have an FBI drone over my house when I get home. But sorry. But I'm just saying, I want new things too. I'm with Mr. Vines. I think we're going to build something on an island. We're going to take up a lot of our parking. I look at Rockingham County, they got their land, they're spread out. I look at Harnett County, they got their land, they're spread out. I don't want to do this over again. I want this to be done right the first time, so we don't have to add on. We don't have to go back and put up walls or anything like that, because every time we pick up a hammer and a nail, it's costing somebody. And I don't want a Barbie dream house that might not work for us but so long, because I was in the courthouse all day with someone advocating. They never got their case heard because there's just so many folks in there, just the timing of it. And we got serious crime. Y'all know where I come from on this thing, and we just have other things we need to look at as well. I want a beautiful courthouse. I think we've got one. I want it to match what we need. We got super judges. We got great lawyers. I watch them all in action all the time. I put our county beside anybody in this country. But it all comes out of that, Joe taxpayer pocketbook. And I have to think about that. I'm Joe taxpayer. I don't live in a $300,000 house, but all of a sudden it is. And I just, there's no way Pam Thompson could live in a $300,000 house unless I won it on the lottery. And that ain't gonna happen either. I try every Wednesday. But, I'm just saying that, that's just my opinion, and I have a right to have an opinion. But when I look at credit card debt, that is pretend money. And sooner or later, you got like Guido, the mafia master, is your percentage point, 20, 30%. It's like owing the mafia, and people get so drawn into that because they won't. And staying at home for 2 years and calling things in online and ordering them online has spoilt us all because it's just quick and instant. And I know I don't agree with you guys, but I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel. I'm just $986 billion in debt, and some of these people will never pay it. It'll get wrote off, and another level of taxpayer have to pay for that. Because we see that with ambulances. How many millions of dollars did we have to write off this year because the folks couldn't afford to pay for the ambulance? Because they can't afford it. They're not going to call and say, I'm just going to have my heart attack. I'm not going to call because I can't afford it. No, please call. We want to save your life. But there's a consequence and an outcome, and we're seeing them. There are really serious outcomes. I'm hearing how the housing market's going to go down. But if the tax rate's way up there, you're going to pay $300,000 tax rate on a $995 house. And that scares me to death because people are already watching their groceries. They're already watching everything. What else are they going to watch? And I'm not going to support taking one dime from the school system. They've worked too hard to finally try to get to where they're supposed to be going. And that's it.
Mr. Chairman, can I have one more question?
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question of the architect really quickly, if he might come up. While he's coming up, I just want to thank Keisha Bluford, the bar president, for being here today, and our complement of judges for taking time to be here today, indicating how important this topic is to you guys. And while I'm talking about judges, what we haven't talked about tonight, I checked with the folks in Raleigh, and for district court, the folks at AOC estimate that our 4 district court judges are doing the work of 4.89 district court judges, which means that Alamance County is #1 on the list for a new district court judge, for an additional district court judge. Not sure when that'll happen in the budget, but I think it's likely to happen by the time a courthouse is built. Currently, there's nowhere to put a 5th district court judge, so the county is growing. That's something we've got to keep in mind. So I appreciate you all being here tonight, Your Honors. Question for the architect. I think when we do this, we're going to have a plan on eventually how to expand it. Either we pay $75 million or we have a plan on how it might be expanded in the future. Do you have a sense on whether it's less costly to prepare to go up or to prepare to go out?
Well, I can answer that in 2 ways, probably. Doing the shell space is probably less expensive now because construction prices are only going to be more in the future. So therefore, if you build, also it benefits the scale of the project. It's a shell is only a part of a very large project. When you build it in the future, it's going to be more expensive per square foot because the scale of the addition will be smaller. Does that make sense to you?
But if you assume that you don't do shell space and only allow for future additions other than that,
right?
Would it be more costly to go up, or would it be more costly to go out?
Again, it depends on the land situation. I think a 1-story building is always less expensive per square foot than a 2- or 3-story building, and you can just see that by a strip shopping center. If a strip shopping center was cheaper to go up, then they'd build 2- and 3-story strip shopping centers, but they keep it low because they have the land to do that on. As soon as you go to a multi-story building, you're then talking about vertical circulation, stairwells, elevators, and things of that nature that you don't need in a 1-story building. So it's marginal costs. It's not twice as expensive or anything like that, but it's marginally more expensive to build 2- and 3-story buildings versus a 1-story building.
Would it be more?
Let me interrupt at that point. One, Graham, North Carolina was chosen as the county seat because it is centrally located. We're dead center of the county. 2, we have the interstate right here and so forth, and I love Ms. Thompson's idea of going out and buying hundreds of acres and whatever, but that's just not sensible in that. This is the county seat. We don't have hundreds of, or even teams of acres to go by and start all over. And that just, to me, financially, does not make any sense. We need to keep Graham, North Carolina as the county seat, and we therefore are limited in space. So I think we're chasing rabbits. I think we're missing the point. I think we don't have much choice. We have to go up for a number of reasons, spacing being the primary reason. Now, we do have the one house on the southern part of what we are sitting on now that we already own, and we are looking at possibly acquiring an additional house that could provide possibly expansion and or parking in the future. But I don't think we really want to go out and spend millions and millions of dollars to find a whole new complex and start the county all over. I think that's great if you have the open land and it's really dirt cheap. That's not the case in Alamance County, and I apologize.
I just want to be sure. If the options are to prepare for a fourth story by hardening your structure, or at the same location to prepare to go wider in some number of years, is there a cost benefit to doing one or the other?
I don't know that I can answer that question, right off the top of my head without doing some analysis of, because I don't know what construction prices are going to do in the future, so it's very difficult to answer that question.
Have you ever had a situation where you harden a structure to plan to build up in the future?
We have built vertically. As far as I know, our firm has only done it one time, and that was the Keenan Football Center at UNC Chapel Hill, where we put on a 5th floor on a 4-story building. The 4th floor was not designed for it initially, and I was not directly involved in the project, but that was done probably 10, 12 years ago at this point. We've gone vertical one time in my recollection.
Thank
you. Let me have my shot. One, I have exactly the same numbers as Mr. Turner on the expansion to the 5th District Court judge. Yeah, I'm in and out of court, and Mr. Turner is as well. And we desperately need a 5th District Court judge. And right now, unless we use this possibly as a full courtroom, which is not, doesn't make a lot of sense, we have nowhere to put that 5th judge. So I think we're required, and statutes mandate that we provide the capital for the court system. We don't have a choice in that matter. Have a 5th judge, and we're gonna have to provide spacing for that 5th judge. 2, I like scenario C because 1, it does not require additional tax dollars or increasing the tax rate. It does take some money out of our general fund, but we have it. That's why it's sitting there, is to use for our capital fund. And we can save it forever, or we can spend it when we have to spend it and not increase the tax rate. The ARP money, the $10 million there that we can spend, makes a lot of sense, dollars and cents. And then financing the roughly $47 million makes a lot of sense. I agree with Mr. Turner again, in that I think we need to plan for the 4th story. Otherwise, we're doing exactly what happened in late 80s, early 90s. We built the J.B. Allen Center, and it was pretty much obsolete and full when it opened. And I don't think we want to plan that short range. Whether we plan for the ability to add a 4th story or go ahead and complete the 4th story is the question I have for you. How much extra dollars would it take to build, no, I don't mean completed, have the structure with the story versus building 3 stories with the ability to add a fourth story.
Right.
And
What's
I
the
have
cost
that slide
difference?
from last time where we looked at the various options, so he's pulling it up for you to look at that, if that's.
And we've seen that number, but the folks in the
It's the
audience
old
have
one.
not.
Right.
I think
Yeah,
it's slide
towards,
10.
it's towards the end.
There you go.
That was it.
Back, that's it.
There you go.
Thank you.
So the addition that we're talking about is approximately 25,000 square feet per floor. To harden the structure, in other words, put in a concrete slab as the roof structure to allow for a future 4th floor, is about $1 million, of which about $750,000 to $800,000 of which is construction cost, and the other $200,000 would be what we call soft costs, construction testing, those types of fees, additional permit fees and things of that nature. If you do the shell space and actually add the 250 or 25,000 square feet, but don't finish it, but you still have to put in sprinkler system, you have to put in a exit lighting and a certain amount of lighting. So it's not just an
elevator's
empty
gonna go to the
shell,
4th floor and
but
so
it's but it's ready for use. Would be from the original would be $10 million, of which $7.5 to $8 million would be construction costs, and the other $2 million would be, again, soft costs.
What does that do to the 67 million? Does that go to 77 million, or does it?
So the structured roof, the reinforced roof, puts the price tag at 66 million. There is some age to these numbers, so I think going with the 67 made a little bit of sense for us because inflation. So that piece was 66 million in what was presented to you back in November. The 4th floor shell finishing out that space took the cost up to 75 million.
All right,
I think I asked that question.
yeah.
I know I did.
So
If I
9
asked-
million separation, is that correct?
Yeah, 9 million, yes, 66 million for the structured roof, 75 million for the finished shell.
Yeah, it was 10 million to finish, because I asked you, and you told me.
So roughly, we're likely looking at 66 to 75 million if we choose to elect the 4th floor or possibility of the
Correct.
4th floor.
Correct.
And if we choose Plan C, we don't have to increase taxes.
Correct.
We can use the funds that have been set aside already with looking at the school set-aside capital.
Right, redistributing between the 2 models to make that work without a tax increase.
All right, guys, I started practicing in 1973, October of 73. We were obsolete, and this addition to this annex building was completed in 1974. We were way, way behind the year I started practicing law, and that was soon, it's already 49 years ago. I think we're making a massive mistake if we do that same thing. We can be penny wise and cost ourselves a lot of dollars and a lot of future. This county's gonna have to have the expansion. Sheriff Johnson's indicated that, the judiciary is here, the clerk's office is here, and they're all, I suspect, supporting the expansion because we have nowhere currently to put people that are already in place. So I'm suggesting that we look at and encouraging Schedule C, and then we later refine whether we want the structured 4th floor or the ability to add the 4th floor at a future date. That would be my suggestion.
It would be a structured or a finished
Correct.
shell.
Yeah. Mr. Carter's correct. Finished shell versus non-finished shell, the ability to add the 4th floor. But in either event, to have the ability to add the 4th floor. Floor's open.
I would just suggest that would be a good topic for TRC and operational review. That the $75 million price tag seems a bit high to me, and our ability to do everything that we're trying to do, with keeping ABSS sound and not raising taxes. But I also encourage that process to tweak this. I mean, we could have option D, section D. This we can tweak. We can tweak around this and work out some numbers. Perhaps the additional $5 million.
You're gonna need the 5 million if you go to 75.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
did scenarios with it in and with it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't put that 5 million in at the 75 level, not only you're not gonna get, you're gonna have to right size, and
Right.
then you're gonna have to raise taxes.
Well, I'm not
And I
sold
think, I got it about in my head, I'm looking at maybe a penny at 1.6, but I digress.
Well, I'm not sold on the 75, but I do think that we there's some tweaking here that we can do further.
County manager,
Yes.
do you need further input from us at this point?
For this item, are we on the courthouse item, right, not the model?
Correct.
On the courthouse item, we would be asking for direction to move forward to enter into formal design for the building with CRA Associates.
We would do that after we have the meetings coming up with the
OSC,
capital
didn't we? Yeah.
committee and
You could,
capital review.
I think we're ready to move forward with the design work. Remember, that's a year-long process. And so there's still the opportunity to fine-tune the design with either of the options, moving alongside and in concert with the financial model to make sure that you can afford that design alternative too. We have designed the model at this point for a $67 million project, and I feel comfortable moving forward with that, giving you those three scenarios for funding it.
May I ask permission to have Judge Allen approach the bench or the podium?
You don't hear that often.
If the legislature approves the 5th District Court judge, which is likely, so I'm being told, and I've talked to our House and Senator, likely to happen, where are you gonna put this 5th person? What are you gonna do with them?
We'll have to find a place,
Exactly.
because as you stated, in 1993, when the J.B. Allen building was built, we were outdated the day we moved in. And we've had to readjust with clerks, cubbies. DA's office has taken over the library, part of the grand jury room. And so we would probably have to have in the interim, a satellite office at the annex, which I've taken several of the commissioners and even Mr. Boney to see the broom closet that we used as a judge's chambers at one time for quite a while. But we'll have to figure out something. But there's no space in the J.B. Allen Courthouse for another judge.
That's the point of what, other questions of Judge Allen?
What I saw over there was a surprise, I have to admit. The locations, the space, the convenience, the security issues. I think more than anything else, the security issues bothered me a lot. I mean, we don't need judges in the same hallway with defendants in criminal cases. We don't need clerk of courts people. We don't need DA people in the same hallways with defendants. I mean, I know, we all know that our detention officers and our deputies are gonna try and make sure nothing happens, but we've all seen it situations where what you didn't think was gonna happen, happened, so.
Mr. Vice Chair, I will say that the most dangerous court that all of the judges, any of the judges handle is over here in this annex building when we're doing domestic work.
Right.
More so than criminal, because domestic is so highly emotional.
That's true.
I have handled a lot of domestic, unfortunately, in my time, a lot of criminal, and I absolutely, the fights and misconduct that I personally witnessed the most would be in domestic court. Other questions of Judge Allen?
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. York, does that give you what you need, or do you need for us to be more specific?
Are we comfortable moving forward with the design work and moving this project forward at this point, or do you want to do something different?
I don't
This is-
think we need to take a vote, but I think we individually need to say yes or no.
That is a vote.
Yeah, it is.
I think we need a vote.
Well, I would prefer to wait a couple of weeks, allow this TRC operational review process to work. I mean, that process could discuss the 75 million, but my concern about the 75 million is that it would require either a tax increase or a reapportionment of ABSS revenue that, to the degree that I'm not comfortable with at this time. So I think it should go through that process, and I don't think waiting a couple weeks or maybe even maybe even a month is going to significantly alter the trajectory of this project.
I agree.
Projection.
Agree, Craig. I think
Can I
we
say
need
that?
to Put it through the process, kick the tires on it and figure out
Trajectory.
where we're going.
Okay, our next
Projected.
meeting is March 6th, so that would be at the earliest March 6th before we make any absolute decisions. Are you comfortable with that?
I am on your schedule, Commissioners. This is a
That
project
important.
that
Are we
takes many
comfortable waiting
years.
to March 6th?
We work at your
Yes.
command.
So we're not gonna vote or anything? Everybody's
we-
going to assume that all 5 of us are for this?
No, I don't think
No.
we're assuming anything, but
Okay.
at
I haven't
the
told you
same
how I feel
time.
about it.
Well, before we move forward, I just wanted to, last couple days ago, this is really quick, because I sent y'all all of this. I had emailed Tony, can't pronounce his last name, Steele, about our stats for all of our overdoses. 3 weeks ago, I went to meet one of my clients to do the rest of her application to go to drug treatment, residential. And I pulled up, and there were 2 Burlington PD officers, there was EMS, and there was fire. And I knocked on the front door, and this guy come running around. I'm not gonna tell you the street. Ugh. So anyway, and I meet her on the gurney, because I knocked on the door, and this guy said, "Are you here for so-and-so?" I said, "Yes." He said, "She just OD'd." So I meet her on the gurney. I go to the emergency room with her for 3 hours. I get her in residential treatment services, and 2 days later, she walks out. She was like one breath away from hell. And this is the lifestyle. This is just the nightmare of drug addiction. And 39 overdoses last year, 238 suspected overdoses, and 135 of those are Narcan, and 68 of those were twice Narcan. So I know we need bigger buildings and stuff like that, but we need bigger programming to really take care of these issues as much as possible. You cannot make somebody get well and stop doing these things. But if you don't have all the programming they need in the support systems, they don't ever have a chance. And I think we've had enough people to die, and we will just focus on all things that are part of the criminal system. Craig made a good comment. He said, we're growing. Yeah, our crime is growing. So if we're gonna build this great big building, we better add on to that sheriff right there, because he's gonna need more security in it, and he's gonna need more deputies and everything else that he's always short. Everything is suffering from crime. And we all pay for it, no matter how you look at it. Some people pay for it with their lives, some people pay it with losing their children, some people pay with going to prison, and some people pay with just staying in this ugliness. And y'all know how I feel about addiction. It's killing this country. I just see it all the time. And we're no different. We're rotten here too. As long as we got drugs, we got stuff. And I just want us to look at the great big picture and not think a building's gonna fix it. You know, the diversion center's gonna be wonderful, but it's going to divert people. If we don't have somewhere to divert them, we just got a part of it, and we gotta look at the great big picture. And that's all.
One of the things you and I have looked at is the divergent court.
Recovery court, y'all just, it's so crucial. I went there a year ago
I
and
mean, we don't
nothing.
even have a place to put that, so.
So here's a room.
Judge Champion, if you'll come forward, you raise your hand.
No, you raised my hand, I probably shouldn't have. I'm Rick Champion, I'm one of the district court judges, a new one. I want to say, I can't be said I'm the youngest, I'm just one of the newest. Ms. Thompson is right, we have a horrible problem with addiction. We have addicts and dealers that we have to deal with. But I've said this before in other public forums, we all want to be safe. We want all our citizens to be safe. So what do we do as a legislative body generally? We fund the police, we fund the sheriff's department. That gives us more enforcement protection. But if you look at a funnel, the law enforcement part of it is the big top of the funnel. So if we keep expanding the top of the funnel so we've got more officers to protect us, making more arrests, and we keep this bottom of the funnel the same size, we can't squeeze everybody through the funnel. And that's why we don't need a Taj Mahal. Nobody needs a Taj Mahal. I joke about wanting one of those TV things that come up and I can play things on. That's a joke, but I mean, we just need space to hold court. And that's why I'm asking that y'all think about it. I think the 4-4 shell makes more sense for long term. I know when we did our little analysis, and I wasn't on that committee as much as some of the other judges, it was a shock to everybody how much it was gonna cost. But y'all asked us to look 20 and 30 and 40 years down the road to try to get that capital structure in place for the future. That's why it was such a shock. But Mr. Vines, I know, it's hard to say, do we spend money on this versus that? But if we're gonna enforce the law and have officers protecting our citizens, they have a right to come to court in a place to have their case heard. Otherwise, it gets heard not next month, not 6 months, but 3 and 4 years down the road, just because we have the space, we don't have the space to put it. That's all I have to say.
And Judge Champion, you and I practiced law for a long time, both of us have. What folks typically don't understand, it's not just criminal cases.
No.
You have just a whole
Our society,
range of civil cases and
which have expanded because
guardianships
our
and-
definition of marriage has gone up.
Okay.
And believe it or not, same couple marriages, they get broke up too. So we gotta divide those marriages up. We keep expanding all the things that comes to the courthouse for resolution when they can't decide it.
Estate settlements, so what I watched over in the historic courthouse where they're doing estate settlements with one couple backed up to another couple, discussing their personal issues. I don't think anybody in here wants to have to deal with that.
We signed up for it. We just need a place to hold court to get it done. That's all. I know.
It's just almost impossible to imagine it costs $65 million.
Well, you'll recall that it was brought back to you in April of last year at 99 million. So we are moving in a direction to right-size it.
Do want to give our chief Superior Court judge, Judge Lambeth, do you want to say anything?
I think they've said it beautifully. I'm just observing that the district court is so squeezed that I think they've spelled it out very well.
And Judge Overby, you've been on our committee for the court. Would you like to say anything?
No, I think everybody has said everything that I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I do acknowledge that we have our clerk of court and district attorney here. I'm sure you guys don't want any more space, do you?
We started, when the courthouse was built, that courthouse, the DA's staff was 14 people. Right now we have 14 DAs, 25 staff. And we moved in, as Judge Allen said, moved into the law library. We don't have any place to put anybody new.
All
Crime is a booming business.
Thank you, Mr. Paisley. I'll just say on behalf of the clerk's office, we just want to serve our citizens. And as Mr. Carter pointed out, we don't feel like we have adequate space to do that in some of our most precious conversations, that people cannot help when their family members die, are not protected in private conversations. And that is an area of concern for me, as well as the space of my growing staff. We're up to over 50 now with our temporary staff given to us to help with COVID backlog. And so we expect that number to continue to grow, expansion of e-courts. We've got a lot of things happening in the court system. We appreciate your consideration.
Do acknowledge we have Judge Brown here as well, and our other Superior Court judge is not even sitting, standing. Do either of you have anything you want to add?
We're just thankful for your consideration. Thank you all.
Thank you. And we have the Chamber of Commerce. We thank you for being here. County Manager, do you have what you need at this point?
Am I to understand that you'd like to bring this back at your next meeting for some further discussion after the models have been shared with the TRC and OSC committees?
Now, that would be Wednesday and Thursday of this week with those two committees.
Tuesday and Thursday, yes, sir.
And then March the 6th would be our next county commissioners meeting.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
All right. Does that take care of C and D?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I think it does. Thank you. Okay.
Not a D.
We're going to take a 10-minute break because, one, I suspect the whole judgeship wants to leave. Y'all are welcome to stay or welcome to not stay.
Can't wait.
Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one comment about the last item, and I talked about this a couple months ago. I think it would be real, and I'd like to say it while the judicial folks are here, I think it would be helpful in determining how much space is needed now and how much space is in the future to take, say, the last month of court that we've scheduled in Alamance County, schedule that as if it's in the new building as it's designed now, and determine what goes where, which would help us determine, do we have the space that's needed for court now, and if so, in what space in that courtroom? And then, as a second thing, to take, assume that you have a 5th District Court judge, and how many more courtrooms would you need with a 5th District Court judge, and to plan that in that building as it's planned, with 3 floors, and see how that works. Do we need more space now? Do we need more space in the future? If so, how much? I think that exercise would help us determine what's needed.
Is there anybody in particular that?
I'm not going to direct the Superior Court judge to do anything.
I'm not even.
Probably wouldn't work out too
This might be
too
the
well.
only time you could.
That's why I'm asking.
I just think it would be helpful for us to have that as we make that.
Would the judges like to leave now so we can talk? No, I'm not.
We're here to hear the sheriff.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, item 7A.
See, there's
Mr.
somebody
Sheriff.
wanted to hear me.
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
I tell you what, I had no intention for it to fit in with what's going on, not about the courthouses, but I would like to go over in the last year what's gone on here in the county. The average person does not know. And it's really compelling when you look at the statistics that's come out. You will understand why there is an addition needed to the courthouse. Start off with Alamance County Sheriff's Office, sworn calls for service, self-initiated calls of service, 84,788. Central Communication initiated calls services, 21,710. And of course, I would go over all the rest of them if you want me to. Total calls for service, 106,957. And we only have, right now, about 10 deputies on a shift. Miles driven, 2,103,516. Warrants served, 2,218. Traffic stops, 4,757. Vehicle chases, 43. And we just had one last night. They stole a Lamborghini, 2 Rolls Royce, and a Dodge Charger out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Had the system on it where they could track it. Raleigh refused apparently to chase the cars. They come into Orange County. Orange County started chasing, run them into Alamance County. The chase, when the chase is ended, we didn't get any of the people, but we got the 2 Lamborghinis and the 2 Rolls Royce and Lamborghini. But I had a video tonight, but our lawyers advised me not to show it. I have never seen, I thought a rocket took off. Our cars were running wide open. It looked like a rocket took off from our cars. Those cars were running over 200 miles an hour, and you could see it. But we were able to recover those cars. And the guy was very happy in Raleigh, but, basically cussed the Raleigh PD out because they didn't take it. We have got to come together as law enforcement and try to stop this mess, and the court system's gonna have to help us, and if they have a courthouse, they may be able to do that. Vehicle traffic, like I say, if 43, that's in this just year, first year. Assistance outside agents, 986. You will be surprised the number of agents. We have been down to Caswell County when they had the deputy shot down there 3 times. We have been all over this state. Why? And I'm very proud of our people because we have one of the best SRT teams that get. And off of drug money, we were able to buy the Bearcat, which if people don't want to come out and they're in there shooting, if you have to, you can drive it through the house if you want to. And when that thing pulls up a lot of times, and it stops officers from being shot. And that's very important. Fingerprints at the front desk. We were fingerprinting people from Charlotte, North Carolina. All these other sheriffs refused to fingerprint people. When the medical people wanted to be fingerprinted, so we had them coming from Charlotte and everywhere for us to fingerprint them so they could go in and work with patients in the hospital. To get their license, they have to be fingerprinted. Patrol Division. Arrest, 323, 911 hang-up calls, 1,214, business checks, 35,645, extra patrol, 18,940, 94, domestic 664, disturbances 707, missing persons 126, overdoses 117, and that's not counting the deaths. That's overdoses that we brought people back with Narcan. Speak to an officer 5,017. And like I say, I'm going real hurry, so y'all won't get mad.
9/11 hang-up calls.
Do what?
9/11 hang-up calls.
Yeah, people get in a fight in the house,
Yep.
and they'll go to call 911, and the husband or wife grab that phone, slam it down. Well, a lot of people say, why do y'all even go? Because we liable to show up there and be a dead body laying in the floor. We're going to go if we have a 911 hang-up call. Some of it is kids messing with the telephone, too. And dispatch could tell you about that. Residential alarms 932, business alarms 507, violation of court order 82. Mental health subjects we were involved with 440, and that's nothing yet.
Diversion center should help that.
Did I go past one? Yeah. All right, animal control. Let me tell you something. I have more heartaches over an animal than I will a triple homicide. I don't understand it. I love animals, but we're running wide open with the animal calls for service 4,568, warning citations 78, civil citations issued 40, dangerous dog declarations 13, bite reports 107. Here is where a lot of people don't think about the courthouse being used. Civil summons served 869, returned 332, magistrate summons served 3,063, magistrate summons returned 265, show cause orders served 842, show cause orders returned 487, notice of rights served 306, notice of rights returned 128. Then we're going to get in some real stuff in a minute. Notice of foreclosures 268, writ of possession real property served 787, writ of possession real property returned 150, summons and termination of parental rights 16. And buddy, when you're having to deal with that, it's a dangerous situation in taking a child. Order of file inventory served 277, order of file inventory returned 95. Okay, special response team. This is where we're getting in, where we're going to need more courts. Alamance County Sheriff's Office missions 13, mutual aid missions 9, 2 out of county. We have a special response team that is, like I say, we've been to Guilford County to help them, we've been to Caswell County, we've been to Rockingham County, we've been to Person County during the protest, and like I say, we have a great trained team, and we have equipment a lot of these other agencies don't. And Caswell County, we were just over there about 2 weeks ago on a situation. And I'll be honest with you, I was so proud of my people. When we got there, the Highway Patrol was there, some of Person County was there, and Caswell County was there, and nobody was know what the other person was doing. They didn't even have a circle the problem areas, just like when the officer was shot. And we got in there, our people took charge, and I was very proud of them. Not because I'm sure, it's because they care and they trained. Okay, school resource unit. Thank goodness to you, the commissioners, and the school system, that we have a school resource officer in every single school that's operating in the county. And we have asked, and I understand the school system is willing to pay $70,000 for the one at the new school. We'll just have to pay for uniforms and stuff like that for the new school. And look at here, student contacts 8,310, parental contacts 2,220, incident reports 284, teen court referrals 112. Now, just a couple weeks ago, we had where a student put on TikTok shooting his classmates. And when it left, 2 students got kicked out there, and then it went to Western. I don't know what happened with those students, but this is very serious stuff.
He had what?
Huh?
He had what?
He had, they could put, like he's standing there shooting all of his classmates. He can film the class, then go up on TikTok and put a person there with a gun shooting these people. Well, you can bet the parents became very, very upset. But I will say this, the school system, Dane Butler, is the best thing's happened in this county in a long time.
That's what I was gonna add.
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Butler's
We
doing
have
such a good
wonderful
job.
working relationships with him and the board. Scenes process, crime scene unit 305, gun traces. This is where when we see his gun, we trace it, who bought it, and whose hands it was in the last time. 151. Gun process, 148. That was collected 3,571 pieces. This is our special victims unit, and buddy, are we getting overwhelmed in a lot of cases there. Case received 1,319, domestic violence cases 630. These are some of the most serious cases an officer has to handle answering calls. It's dangerous for them. Domestic violence field contacts 410, where no assaults occurred. Domestic violence protection orders issued 553, total arrests 189, felony charges 196, sex offender compliance checks 816. You will be surprised how many sex offenders are operating in this particular county. Sex offender address changes 224. There's a lot of work that goes into this.
Can you not go on the internet and figure out your community?
Pretty much, yeah.
Can you tell
Yeah,
people
there's
how
a
to do
site that
that?
you can go look at that at,
Right.
yeah.
That's my
You'll be surprised how many we have to arrest that don't give the right address or moves without notifying. Okay, FBI task force. We have a guy assigned to FBI task force. He's been to Mexico 3 times on investigations. This is where a lot of our drugs are coming from. And but arrest 39 indictments, 30 methamphetamines that he was involved in seizing 106,916 grams or 236 pounds. Cocaine, 21,890 grams or 48.2 pounds. Marijuana, 19,000 grams or 41.8 pounds. Fentanyl, 1,218 grams or 2.68 pounds. U.S. currency seized, $334,518. Firearm seized, 27. And this is where a lot of your firearms, they get traded back and forth over the borders and stolen here in the county. Alamance County is the U.S. Marshal Task Force. We have an individual sheriff's officer assigned to the U.S. Marshal Task Force, which goes after the fugitives that we're looking for in Alamance County. Been 39 arrests, warrant service 82. Federal case adoption, this is the ATF task force. We have a person assigned to the ATF that works the gun cases and all that and tries to get them into federal court. Federal case adoption 7. NIBIN entries, this is where they'll trace guns and match bullets from different shootings, different stuff. Illegal firearm seizures 31. I want y'all to look at the number of firearms that we're seizing. Federal fully prosecuted cases 4, indictments 19, total federal prison time sentence 142 months. We get a whole lot more time in federal court than we do in state court, and that's not our judges, that's the way the laws are written here. But with that, we get the repeat offenders over and over. And that's why you need, if we would put courthouse, but different things. Street crimes unit. Total arrest 301, misdemeanor drug charges 370, federal drug charges 308, weapons seized 49. U.S. currency seized $54,826, surveillance hours 5,225, cocaine seized 5,308.97 grams, marijuana seized 8,042.4 grams, heroin and fentanyl seized 182.67 grams. And that's almost enough fentanyl to kill half Alamance County, if you would look at it. Methamphetamine seized, 407.86 grams. And the reason I'm showing you this too, this is telling you why our court system is so full. And the problem is right now is so full, a lot of these cases are just sent through and you, a doggone DA cannot properly prepare with the number of cases, and a judge in a courtroom certainly needs to hear every aspect of that case to be able to make the right decision on the sentencing. Strike team. This was developed, our Matt Martin, who was U.S. Attorney, come to me a few years back, and you commissioners gave us 4 people for the strike team. Orange County, us, and Durham County worked together. We just finished operation in Durham County, and that sheriff down there was tickled to death. I wish I'd have brought a copy of the letter he sent. Arrest 54, assist other agencies. That would be Durham, Orange, 142. Cocaine seized 222.5 grams. Methamphetamine 151.6 grams. Marijuana 870.2 grams. U.S. currency $17,123. Notice again, firearms 33 seized. These are illegal firearms, felons, drug dealers, etc. Community contacts 886. Alamance Narcotic Enforcement Team, this is where a lot of the local agencies have the, yes sir.
And all these firearms, are they predominantly pistols? Are they rifles, pistols?
But most of
shotguns?
them are pistols. I'd say 90% of them are pistols. And about 90% of them are stolen from somewhere. So if you have guns in your car, keep your car locked.
I can't believe people don't do that anyway.
I know. Cocaine, 64,000 grams, or 141.6 pounds. Methamphetamine, 4,500 grams, or 9.92 pounds. Heroin, 2,000 grams, or 4.4 pounds. Fentanyl, 6,000 grams, or 13.2 pounds. That would kill this entire county probably that much. Marijuana, 51.072 grams, or 114 pounds. Look at that. Firearms, 23 more firearms seized. U.S. currency, $1,221,283 seized. That has helped us because if we work these cases out, and we do, we get a percentage of the money that's taken. That's why we were able to buy the Bearcat. Didn't cost taxpayers a dime. And a lot of our rifles and stuff we buy out of this money. Keep having to come to y'all.
How much are we owed right
budget
now
time.
to come back to the
Do what,
county?
sir?
Do we know about how much we're owed right now to come back to the county?
Well, I know there was 63,000 that come in today, and we have to keep from having to put stuff in the budget. Heidi and Susan knows we use some of that money to keep our budget as close to null and void as we could.
That about some of your cars, doesn't it?
Do what?
That
We
can
bought
buy
some
some
cars,
cars.
yeah.
Yeah.
We bought some cars, sure have. Criminal investigative unit cases, 844. Recovered property, $344,101. Total arrest, 140. You will be surprised at the number of investigations that not only do we get involved in here in the county, but the city of Burlington. People live in Burlington, they call, well, I ain't getting satisfaction. I'm knocking Burlington, please don't put that out there. But we can't get no satisfaction. I said, ma'am, that's in the city of Burlington. Sir, that's in the city of Burlington. But by golly, I pay county taxes. Yes, ma'am, we'll be there. So we'll call Burlington, let them know we're going to help work the cases.
Sheriff, if it makes you feel any better, we as commissioners get the same thing about the city problems.
Oh, so I can tell them to call y'all then, huh?
They already do.
All right.
Of those 140 arrests,
Do what, sir?
of the 140 arrests, how many involve drugs?
Are you, you talking, which,
Talking about
A&A?
the criminal investigation unit.
Oh, that's fraud that is committed.
How many were involving drugs as a side?
Oh,
Most
I
of
couldn't
them?
give it, but no, I wouldn't say most all of it, but a big majority of it do. Drug-related people. You go up here on Maple Avenue corridor, you know, they're stealing anything they can get to supply their habit.
Right.
And, you know, something's gotta be done on that end somewhere along the line too. I'll just tell you, I see it and I'm sick of it. And a lot of times, they have mental health conditions that cause them to the drug world, and when they get there, it's all over with. You will be surprised the amount of human trafficking going on in Alamance County right now.
Would point out
We
that Maple
are
Avenue-
second to Mecklenburg County for human trafficking.
Would point out that Maple Avenue is not Alamance County jurisdictional.
No, it is not, but we have gone in there and worked it. You know, you get a call from a person who's got a business of our Raising Cane, and they hit you, like I said, I pay county taxes, what it mean you can't do nothing. We try to do it. Carry concealed permits, 1,266. Concealed carry permit renewals, 1,429. Pistol purchase permit, 1,907. There's a bill in Raleigh right now to try to take this away from the sheriff and just leave it up to the gun dealers. And I have a problem with that. I tell you what, my people check the mental health record. Nix does not check the mental health record. And I am a NRA member, and I love firearms. But there's a right way and a wrong way to sell them doggone things. And I know a sheriff is gonna double check. At least I do, and my people do. And if they don't, they'll get in trouble when ATF comes in and goes through their files.
Just for the record, I am absolutely in agreement with you. It should go through the sheriff's department.
I mean, it's work on us. A lot of sheriffs are saying, oh, yeah, y'all can have it. We don't want it. We don't want it. Well, let me tell you something. And my son is an ATF agent. And their business is gun dealers that, old buddy here needs one, but I ain't gonna make him go get a permit. And then that gun's sold to somebody else and winds up in a felon's hand, killing somebody. That's why I think sheriffs, that's just my opinion. I can't speak for the other 99 sheriffs in the state, but I can tell you a lot of them feel like I do. And it's worked for us. I mean, I got 3 people working that stuff.
It's kind of like the opioid crisis started from a prescription pad. It just didn't happen.
Right.
Over prescribing drugs.
Yep.
Painkillers.
Believe me. Mental health unit, involuntary commitments, 299, mental health provider assessments, 339, suicide watch, the people have been on suicide watch, 152, behavioral health medication, 411. And you're gonna get into it now. Detention center investigator, cases received, 179, inside the detention division. We have a guy that handles all the investigation. Total arrest 82 inside, and then they violate the law on something else, wind up getting arrested. Warrant served 362, cell search hours 215. We have to do those cell searches because people, what we call suitcase drugs in, if y'all know what I mean. And when they get inside, yeah, you quit laughing, Mr. Boney. And then we also surveil the Paytel home wave 720 times on that, and you'll be surprised what we find out is going to happen or what's coming in that jail or not coming in that jail.
I would, if you haven't had a tour of the detention center, I would recommend it. I know Pam and I have, and Pam's.
I would love for
If you
the
haven't been
commissioners
there,
have
you'll
not to
see it.
come and go through that jail.
And there's
You will see. And then we have a Citizens Academy.
Citizens Academy's
I'd like to
coming
see everyone,
I
you've
did
been
it.
through it.
I did it.
And was it worth
I was
it?
such a wannabe. Oh, yeah.
Hey, and it's not but what, I think it's 6 nights from 6 to 9:30, and we feed you some food. And then a big graduation dinner. But
You get
you
a
will
matching
see
shirt.
what the sheriff's office does, and not because I'm sheriff, but you will be surprised.
You will
Y'all-
really be
y'all
surprised.
have no idea what goes on,
at
I'm
what
telling you.
Patrol does.
And that
Patrol
junior-
does it all. Patrol is something.
And the Junior Police Academy, what a.
Oh, yes,
Wonderful.
yeah, that is. You'll be surprised, I'm not gonna call the kid's name, it went through the Junior Police Academy several years ago, coming as a deputy right now in Alamance County. Otherwise, I think he'd probably be in prison. So,
Have you
anyway.
got your x-ray machine installed yet?
Yes, sir. It's installed, but waiting for license to come from Raleigh for our people that are to be certified in running the machine.
What kind of time frame is?
I'm hoping to be, that they may already be in there, but I didn't have a chance to check today.
Okay, if I come over there with my suitcase and I go through this machine,
You won't go through that machine with that suitcase.
okay, but if you see my suitcase, what's gonna happen to me?
I'm gonna take it away from you and search it if you.
You
check it.
gonna take my suitcase?
That's not what she's saying, Sheriff.
David,
That's
is
not
that
what she's
your-
saying.
I'm just
Oh,
saying.
no, no, I know what you're talking.
Do you
Well,
arrest me?
Yes.
Because I've got a
If
suitcase.
you got,
Yeah,
up there, hey, we can't touch you. We can't search you back there.
okay.
We asked
This,
why we
this is
got
so
that.
going down a hill. Okay. Are you gonna arrest me because I have something I'm bringing in with me?
You're already arrested.
No, I know I'm arrested, but do I get another charge because I'm trying
Yes,
to
ma'am.
smoke?
If you got come in with drugs or even stuff not allowed in that jail,
Okay,
you're gonna be charged.
okay.
You're gonna be charged.
Do you have a person who unsuitcases stuff like this? I'm just asking because it's
Okay,
gotta go
Let
somewhere.
me say this, you go through that machine
Yeah.
and we show you got something up your booty.
Okay. It's just getting worse.
Well, I'm just telling you.
I need to know this because I
Then-
want everybody
then guess what?
knows.
We get a search warrant.
Oh.
We take you over to the hospital and it is removed. Now, if you have eaten it, we will sit with you beside of the bus, until you pass it.
May I encourage us to move on?
Thank you. I appreciate that because I'm blushing.
But anyway, you're going to find it. That's the key.
Right.
If we can, we are.
Okay, good.
But see, we have no right to search a person's private part
Okay.
there if,
Yeah.
unless we get a search warrant and have probable cause.
Please don't put that person in your budget for next year, searcher.
I hear you. Okay. $10 cases received, 179, total arrest 82. That's already, after already in there. Warrant served 362. We'll arrest the person, bring them in. We check on the computer. They may be wanted in Orange County, Durham County, everywhere, or even in this county. We got pay-tail home wage sales, says 720 hours. That's where they're talking on the cameras and stuff to their people home wave, and we're able to monitor it. Gang intelligence hours, you will be surprised how many gang members are brought into that jail without our knowledge and wind up a fight in there, and we find out they're opposing gang members or whatever. Assault investigation on detention staff. We have had 7 serious assaults on detention staff. And I think I've told y'all before, when you're operating short staff, or you having to force people to come back in after working a 12-hour shift or work another 12-hour shift, they're tired and they're apt to be assaulted. And you can bet those inmates know every single one of them, how long they've been there, and if they're back in there. They do. They've got 24 hours, 7 days a week to outsmart you. Assault investigation on detention staff, like I say, 7. Okay, detention center painted fire. This Graham Fire Department asked us to help paint the fire hydrants in the city of Graham. There's, I think, 780 in the city of Graham. We painted, this is with inmates, we painted 390, and they come back and said, hey, we want to change the color. I said, good. Have a good time doing it. And we come on back. Because our inmates, we got to pick trash up on the road.
Yeah.
You know, and it was ridiculous. Why change it? They had the colors and had them painted. But we try to help agencies when we can. Trash collected off the roadside, 6,720 pounds, and that don't even make a drop in the bucket. Matter of fact, I was riding down the road, and there's a mattress, box springs, and a bed frame, and 2 or 3 tires sewed, and I was in my truck. I threw it over in my truck, drove it down to the landfill. Sheriff, what are you doing? I said, shut up, I'm picking up trash, and I went on through. So, but they're good to work with. Mental health patients transported, 352. If you've never transported a mental health patient in crisis, you ain't, hey, it's tough, I can tell you that. Miles driven for the transportation, transported, 800, inmates transported 826, 45,060 miles that we've driven just transporting mental health patients. Miles driven for transportation of state and county inmates, 109,711. Miles driven for transportation U.S. Marshal inmates, 16,969. Miles driven for transportation of ICE detainees, 103,014 miles.
Where does that go? What's that destination for ICE? It's out of state, isn't it?
Immigrate, that's ICE.
But they take it, is it Georgia? Didn't it used to be Georgia? That you
Wasn't
would
it?
transport
Yeah,
it back to
yeah,
Georgia?
yeah.
Okay.
Immigration and Customs
Yeah.
Enforcement is whatever. We hold their inmates, and we also have a transportation contract with them. And, well, I'll get that later. Here we go. Inmates seen by medical staff sick call, 3,974. Inmates blood sugar check, 3,357. Inmates blood pressure check, 7,316. TB screens and PPD tests, 4,926. Inmate admitted to the hospital, 14. And when we admit one to the hospital, we have to have 24-hour surveillance setting with the inmate at the hospital. And that is time consuming. Inmates sent to the emergency room, 53. X-rays completed in-house, 856. Medical screenings completed, 8,103. COVID tests conducted, 4,677. And just learned today at our staff meeting, we have some breakouts in the jail right now, and we're having to deal with that. Detention center continued. Inmates released, 6,945. Inmates booked, 6,897. ICE detainees booked, 1,157. Federal inmates booked, that's Marshall, 136. Inmates seen by on-site behavioral health professionals, 339. Assaults on officers. This is investigations that we had to do in the jail. Not those 7, but other things happened. 10. Visits conducted via home wave, 201,576. I'm not going, I'm going to go over this and then I'm going to be through. FBI uniform crime, and the reason I'm doing this is to show you what the standards are as far as the law enforcement, sheriff's office, etc., which we're way under, not counting the staff, and I'm not in here asking for more people. okay? I just want to let you know what the FBI Uniform Crime Report UCR program finds that nationwide, the rate of sworn officers for county agencies is 12.8 per 1,000 inhabitants. The rate of full-time law enforcement employees, civilian and sworn detention officers per 1,000 is 2.8. When the population of cities and towns in Alamance County served by police department population is just the county, it's not counting the cities. We have right at 65,335, and that's a low number because you're looking at probably 180,000 in here by now. I don't know what the latest, this was a 2020 census that we took this from. Conclusions based on the UCR findings, the ACS sworn position increases from 153 to 182. That's how many, by federal standard, we should have on patrol. Now, I'm not here asking for that. I'm asking to be able to keep what I got, you know. Of the current 153 sworn positions, we have 8 vacancies. That's on the sworn. We're looking for 8 people for patrol and different things right now. Based on the UCR findings, including the total county population, and they say this was taken from 2020, 171,000. We way over 180,000 right now, but we used 171,000 figure 2020. The Alamance County Sheriff's Office Detention Center civilian and sworn position increases from 153 to 478. Technically, with what we're running over, we should have around 478 people in detention. We don't have that, but I don't think we could ever hire that many at this point. I'm just pointing out what the federal government is saying. Of the current 153 positions, we have 43 vacancies in detention. We have 153 positions there, and 48 of them are vacant right now. We are making strides. Y'all have helped tremendously, but I'm gonna tell you this, we need more help. That's all I can tell you. And if we don't get it, then it's gonna, put me in a position to have to stop dealing with the federal government on holding these people, which is, where you want to say it or not, it helps offsets the cost to the taxpayers. So that's something to consider. All right, Alamance County, these are just some of the seizures. We didn't do a whole lot. I could have put a ton up there. I also had some videos, but after speaking with our county attorney, I chose not to show them. So that's basically just some of the seizures, guns and stuff, and it's over. Now, let me tell you, like I say, last night we had chases with the Lamborghinis and stuff. Just a couple weeks ago, right down here at County 4, and this burns me up. They broke in, stole keys, got a Mustang GT 350, Mustang Shelby GT 500, Ford F450 truck, and a Camaro. Gone. Broke in this past Saturday night, busted windows out and everything, but they had moved the keys so they couldn't find no keys to fit the cars to steal. What I'm trying to say here, our courts is going to be, it's already overcrowded. And with the crime coming in here, and I'm telling you, the interstate has caused us some problems. It's caused us gang problems. But our juvenile system has too. When they raised the age of juvenile, I knew that was the wrong thing to do. And we're having to deal with those now. In Alamance County, I think we're very lucky in a lot of ways, but it's coming. It's coming. Every day morning I turn on TV at 4 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, I'm watching Winston-Salem. They've had shooting. Just this past weekend, like I say, we had those chases, but Hall River had a home invasion, 1 killed and 1 shot, and in serious condition. And I'll guarantee you, a lot of these are coming in here from the outside. But we do have a bunch of mean, young people here that are in gangs. The cartel is present here. And we do need a courthouse, and I wanted to give you these statistics so you understand where I'm saying. I get ill at this sometimes. Y'all, and my people don't even like to be around me because, hey, you got 5 o'clock, get somebody in jail on this. And so far, they've been pretty good about doing that. But you as commissioners, I have a responsibility of protecting the citizens and their property. But you have a responsibility to give us what we need. And I'm not hounding you for anything right now, but I'm telling you, please think about that when we're looking. The courthouse, if we, you know, we got people over there in jail, been there 4 years. 4 years waiting trial. Now, I can tell you, if I'd been there 4 years waiting trial and I wasn't guilty, oh, they'd have to beat the daylights out of me because I'd fight everybody that come around me. Just think, they've lost their house, they've lost their family, they've lost their job. Hopefully, with a new courthouse, and they didn't ask me to say this, but hopefully, with a new courthouse, we can take care of some of the problems we have. Give you another example. I had a video I was going to show you. I can tell them about it, Rick. Guy, of course, when I was a young SBA agent, I was chasing his family, so I'm not going to call a name. But some of y'all up here know it, and it's family history. Cut his ankle bracelet off. We had to run him down. Put another ankle bracelet back on him. These are things that we need to get these people tried and out of here as quick as we can. Our jail is staying pretty full. And with that comes a lot of money being spent feeding these people. If we maybe can get another courthouse added, maybe we can stop some of that. Y'all have any questions?
I'd like to point out your bar chart.
They wouldn't let me do that. See, no. They told me to cut out some of my presentation. Believe me, I won't.
Well, I called him and told him he had 5 minutes.
I knew it wasn't you.
But obviously, 2021, you had more resignations and terminations.
Yes, sir.
And then in 2022, you turned it around.
We've turned it around, and we're hoping. I understand. I heard through the grapevine. Don't know if this is true or not, but the commissioners were thinking about maybe freezing those open positions or taking them away. I'm asking you not to take them away. If you freeze, to help offset the budget. I don't have a problem with that. But if we can hire, leave me about 15 so we can get those hired. And then if we have more, let's unfreeze them as we go. Because if not, it's going to get a lot worse in our detention center. And I am responsible to see those men and women go home to their families without having their head beat in. And if I lose an officer, that's going to be the worst thing that's ever happened, I think, in my life. I don't want to do that. And I don't think y'all want us to do that.
Not a chance.
Honorable Sheriff, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
For all your hard work.
Thank you.
Mr. Atkins.
And remember, all those people's got to go to court to be tried.
Okay, we're on item 7B. That's the advertisement of delinquent taxes for 2022.
That's right. All
Your
right.
honors, thank you.
And I will try to keep it brief. I know it's getting late. General Statute 105-369A requires the tax collector to report to the governing body the total amount of unpaid taxes that are in the current fiscal year that are a lien against real property. Upon receiving this report, the governing body orders the tax collector to publish these tax liens, to advertise them at least once in a newspaper having a general circulation. Now, the good thing about this is that the cost of this advertisement is borne by the persons whose taxes are not being paid. It's added as a fee. We estimate that $5 per account per parcel advertised would be sufficient to cover the cost of advertisement. And of course, folks that are under bankruptcy will not be advertised. Bankruptcy law would not allow that. Now, as of January 31st, 2023, the total amount of liens against real property for current year taxes was $5,495,492.86. As of close of business today, that was down to $3,766,335.06. What I'm asking for today is a motion by the board to approve the tax lien advertisement of unpaid real property parcels for tax year 2022 at a cost of $5 per parcel. That will allow me to add that fee and proceed with advertisement.
I so move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
And I am recommending to the board that we advertise March 16th on or about. That allows time that anybody that pays by the end of February, we have to wait for postmarks to come in, that they will have a chance to be posted and not get advertised. One difference this year I would like to mention to the board, I would like to suggest, we've always split the advertisement between the Times News and Alamance News. I would like to suggest combining into one publication. I think that it would be more cost effective. And if the board so wills, I would like to go forward with getting quotes from any of the qualified vendors, and whoever's lowest, put them all in one paper. I think that would be the best use of county resources.
May I amend my motion to include the publication date that you've just mentioned?
Absolutely.
And allow you to make the choice as to the publication.
I'll amend my second the same way.
I think we've already voted, though. I don't know that we proper to amend. I think maybe a new motion would work.
All right, then I make a new motion, and the county attorney's indicating you're correct.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, item 7E.
Yeah. Excuse me. This is mostly a housekeeping item. I have a proposed policy before the board tonight for your input and discussion. This would create some objective criteria by which we could make funding decisions for replacement of vehicles in our county operating budgets. We have laid out some criteria for you to consider that would include the vehicle's age, the mileage, the frequency, as well as the type of use, whether it's patrol pursuit, whether it's an ambulance or a utility vehicle. And so we have a mileage chart for your consideration. We would be looking at the vehicle fleet on an annual basis, and then this would help give us some priority when we're trying to make budgetary decisions in terms of replacing the vehicles.
Will this increase, decrease costs, or just make it more efficient?
Well, you currently don't have a policy at all, so we're hoping that this would lend some objective analysis to it, but we would not be able to afford to implement this with the full fleet that you have right now. So this would be some guiding principles over time. I think when we did a quick assessment, your vehicle costs, if we were to run them all through this criteria, would be around $7 million. So we would not be asking to do that, but we would be wanting to try to give ourselves some guidance in terms of when vehicles need to be replaced, and also consider then when we retire a patrol car, for example, could we distribute that or repurpose that to a county department for another purpose, given the mileage criteria that we're laying out in there. So normal car usage could go up to 150,000 miles before we would look at replacing it, whereas a sheriff's vehicle would not last quite that long, given the wear and tear on.
And for the benefit of the commissioners too, I mentioned to you earlier this week that I had, or last week, late last week, had a conversation with a former commissioner up in Caswell County, and he said that they had moved to a fleet leasing program with Enterprise, and that it had been very beneficial, and it enabled them to add some significant dollars to their fund balance. So I would encourage us to take a look at that alternative to always having to purchase the vehicle.
Understand that that's been looked at here. I've also looked at that other places. It does take a significant amount of upfront capital to get that program moving forward, but if the board would like to take a look at that, we'd be happy to do that.
Have you had anyone to contact you about switching over to propane? I had a gentleman to contact me that said that there's several counties that have turned their county automobiles over to propane, and how much cheaper it was and cleaner. Because we all know how the world feels about gas right now.
Sheriff, did you have a comment you wanted to make on that?
Yeah, I was just saying the North Carolina Sheriff Association has contracts with different automobile agencies in the state, and the county can purchase off their contract like we do. For instance, if you
We do.
were to buy, what is our cost on say, a Dodge Charger, 6-cylinder?
Like 36 or so.
$36,000, it's a lot cheaper than 52, 53, you buy off a lot.
And County Manager, I think you have a
We do
comment.
that, yes, we do that. When we try to purchase, we use state contract rates for that as well.
Brian Baker wouldn't be driving a car that would go that fast.
Brian Baker does not drive a car.
Just wanna make sure you ain't got the light flashing. All right.
Yes, please.
Madam County Manager, quick question. Do we know what the average maximum mileage is for the cars under these categories currently?
I can't give you that off the top of my head, but I'd be happy to do a little more analysis on that. We have approximately 460 vehicles right now. That's a lot.
I'm sorry,
It is.
how many?
460.
But it's a
They
whole lot
haven't
fewer to
been-
know that are retiring, so
We haven't been rotating them out like we need to, so when we're purchasing more vehicles, we continue to add to the fleet, and this policy would help us rotate them out and sell them on gov deals, as mentioned in the policy.
Don't have a problem with the policy. I do wonder if the mileage is a little light. I mean, 90,000 miles for a sheriff.
Yes,
or
the sheriff and I have had a conversation, he feels more comfortable with 100,000 miles on there, so we could easily make that adjustment.
Okay. I'd like to see the numbers that we're looking at now, just to be able to make a comparison.
Just as an
Okay,
aside
I have
too,
that in a spreadsheet, and I'll
Okay.
be happy to share that.
just as an aside too, back a long time ago, I'll go back to when you were just practicing law and I was studying at East Carolina, selling cars. I was reading an Automotive Weekly one weekend sitting in a dealership and looked at an article on police cars. New York City Police Department was rolling their cars out at that time, they were mostly Crown Vics. They were rolling them out about, as I recall, this was a long time ago, but I think they were at around 250,000 miles. And they were being bought in most cases by taxi cab companies. And when they were rolling them off, they had 500,000 miles on them. So,
Sherry, do you have those
but now they weren't,
mileage?
in New York City, I don't think you have a lot of cars driving 125 miles an hour either, so,
Chasing a Lamborghini. That-
yeah.
Oh. I hope you got that on film. I got to see that.
That was a Porsche.
That's amazing.
Can I recommend that we
Have to drive through Alamance County.
remove this or postpone this decision to March 6th and
Absolutely.
gather more information?
Yep.
Does the board agree?
Sure.
All right. Okay. We'll see that on March 6th. Moving to item number 8, County Manager.
I have no additional report.
I like that report, thank you. County Commissioner comments. Mr. Turner, you want to have anything? Mr. Carter?
I'm fine.
I'm good,
I'm fine as well.
I've said all I need to say.
thank you. I like those reports. County Attorney.
A few things for you guys tonight. With the board's consent, I'm gonna remove the closed session related to litigation update. We do have two other closed sessions, and I'll read those now. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4, I'd ask the board move into closed session to discuss matters relating to location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body, including agreement on a tentative list for economic development incentives that may be offered by the public body in negotiations, and also, under General Statute 143-318.11A5, I ask the board move into closed session in order to instruct the public body staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the potential purchase of the real property owned by Alamance Rescue, and that's parcel numbers 160550 and 160554 for potential use by Alamance County EMS. No anticipated action after the closed sessions.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
A motion second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. We're now in closed session. When are you getting your new awning in?
It's been sent away to be recovered, and I don't have any idea, frankly.
Waiting on Mr. Carter.
I had a guy that could yawn so loud in the courtroom today. I mean, it was like, oh. I thought, dude, what are you doing? It was like, funny.
Thank you.
Did we lose two?
Yeah, it's at 9.
I hope not.
Maybe 10 or 12. So cute.
You run Thomas off.
I let him off.
Oh, gave him a break.
Okay, we closed the, closed session. While in closed session, we're reopening our general meeting. And the only thing I know of, guys, we took no action. So we need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Alamance County Commissioners Meeting. Commissioner meetings typically occur on the first and third Monday of each month in the Commissioners' Chambers at the County Office Building at 124 West Elm Street in Graham. The first Monday meeting begins at 9:30 a.m. and the third Monday meeting begins at 6:30 p.m. Changes to the meeting schedule will be posted on the county website at www.alamance-nc.com. The video of this meeting will be broadcast on LocalGov TV. Please go to www.localgovtvnc.com for more information about their schedule and to see more videos produced by your local governments. You can also access this meeting through our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/Alamance County NC or by clicking the YouTube link on the county website. Technical questions regarding this meeting's broadcast or production may be sent to our county webmaster at webmaster@alamance-nc.com. This address is for technical questions only. Comments and questions about the content of this meeting may be made to the commissioners themselves. You can find their contact information at the Alamance County website at www.alamance-nc.com. There, you can click on the link that says County Commissioners to learn more about the commissioners, read minutes and agendas of commissioner meetings, and find other information about the county commissioners. You can also send mail correspondence to County Commissioners, 124 West Elm Street, Graham, North Carolina 27253. Again, thank you for tuning in to the Alamance County Commissioners Meeting. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all our latest video content. If you're watching on LocalGov TV, be sure to visit their website to see all of the content made for you by your local governments.